Greetings, true believers. Well, our look at Phase 2 of the MCU now continues on with another one of my favorite films in this phase, Guardians of the Galaxy. In 1988, following his mother's death, a young Peter Quill is abducted from Earth by a group of alien thieves and smugglers called the Ravagers, led by Yondu Udonta. 26 years later, on the abandoned planet Morag, Quill steals a mysterious orb, but is attacked by forces led by Korath of the fanatical Kree renegade Ronan the Accuser. Although Quill escapes with the orb, Yondu discovers its theft and issues a bounty for his capture, while Ronan sends the assassin Gamora after the orb. When Quill attempts to steal the orb on Xandar, capital of the Nova Empire, Gamora ambushes him and steals it. A fight ensues, drawing in a pair of bounty hunters, the genetically and cybernetically modified Raccoon Rocket, and the tree-like humanoid Groot. Nova Corps officers capture the four, detaining them in the Kiln prison. An inmate there, Drax the Destroyer, attempts to kill Gamora due to association with the powerful intergalactic warlord Thanos and Ronan, who killed his family. Quill convinces Drax that Gamora can bring Ronan to him, but Gamora reveals that she has betrayed Ronan and willing to let him use the orb's power. Learning that Gamora intends to sell the orb to collector Tannelir Tavan, Quill, Rocket, Groot, and Drax work with her to escape the Kiln in Quill's ship, the Milano. Ronan meets with Gamora's adoptive father, Thanos, to discuss her betrayal. Quill's group flees to Nowhere, a remote lawless outpost in space built in the giant severed head of a Celestial. A drunken Drax summons Ronan while the rest of the group meets Tavan. Tavan opens the orb, revealing the Power Stone, an item of immeasurable power that destroys all but the most powerful beings who wield it. Tavan's slave Karina grabs the stone, triggering an explosion that engulfs Tavan's archive. Ronan arrives and easily defeats Drax, while the others flee by ship, pursued by Ronan's followers and Gamora's adopted sister Nebula. Nebula destroys Gamora's ship, leaving her floating in space, and Ronan's fighters capture the orb. Quill contacts Yondu before following Gamora into space, giving her his helmet to survive. Yondu arrives and retrieves the pair. Rocket, Drax, and Groot threaten to attack Yondu's ship to rescue them, but Quill negotiates a truce, promising the orb to Yondu. Quill's group agrees that facing Ronan means certain death, but they cannot allow him to use the Infinity Stone to destroy the galaxy. On Ronan's flagship, the Dark Aster, Ronan embeds the stone in his warhammer, taking the power for himself. He contacts Thanos, threatening to kill him after first destroying Xandar. Hateful of her adopted father, Nebula allies with Ronan. The Ravagers and Quill's group join with the Nova Corps to confront the Dark Aster at Xandar, with the Quill's group reaching the Dark Aster with the Milano. Ronan uses his empowered warhammer to destroy the Nova Corps fleet. Drax kills Gorath and Gamora defeats Nebula, who escapes, but the group find themselves outmatched by Ronan's power until Rocket crashes a Ravager's ship through the Dark Aster. The Dark Aster crash lands on Xandar, with Groot sacrificing himself to shield the group. Ronan emerges from the wreck and prepares to destroy Xandar, but Quill distracts him, allowing Drax and Rocket to destroy Ronan's warhammer. Quill grabs the freed stone, and with Gamora, Drax, and Rocket sharing its burden, uses it to vaporize Ronan. In the aftermath, Quill tricks Yondu into taking a container supposedly containing the stone and gives the real stone to the Nova Corps. As the Ravagers leave Xandar, Yondu remarks that it turned out well that they did not deliver Quill to his father per their contract. Quill's group, now known as the Guardians of the Galaxy, has their criminal records expunged, and Quill learns how to use only half-human, his father being part of an ancient unknown species. Quill finally opens the last present he received from his mother, a cassette tape filled with her favorite songs. The Guardians leave in the rebuilt Milano along with a spotted sapling cut from Groot, which grows into a baby version of him. In a post-credits scene, Tavan sits in his destroyed archive with two of his living exhibits, a canine cosmonaut and an anthropomorphic duck. So anyway, let's get the production of this film, beginning with the development. Marvel Studios President Kevin Feige first mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy as a potential film at the 2010 San Diego Comic-Con International, stating, quote, "There are some obscure titles too, like Guardians of the Galaxy. I think they've been revamped recently in a fun way in the comic book." Feige reiterated that statement in September 2011 issue of Entertainment Weekly, saying, quote, "There's an opportunity to do a big space epic, which Thor sort of hints at in the cosmic side, excuse me, of the Marvel Cinematic Universe." Feige added, should the film be made, it will feature an ensemble of characters similar to X-Men and the Avengers. Feige announced that the film was in active development at the 2012 San Diego Comic-Con International during the Marvel Studios panel, with an intended release date of August 1st, 2014. He said the film's titular title team would consist of the characters Star-Lord, Drax the Destroyer, Gamora, Groot, and Rocket. 2 pieces of concept art were also displayed, one of Raccoon and one featuring the entire team. In August 2012, James Gunn entered talks to direct the film, beating out other contenders, including future MCU directors Peyton Reed and the duo Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck. The Avengers director Joss Whedon, who signed a deal to creatively consult on all the films leading up to the Avengers, was enthusiastic about the selection of Gunn to direct, saying, quote, "James Gunn is what makes me think it will work. He is so off the wall and so crazy, but so smart, such a craftsman, and he builds from the heart. He loves a raccoon, needs a raccoon. He has a very twisted take on it, but it all comes from a real love for the material. It's going to be hard for the human characters to keep up." And now on to the writing. Nicole Perlman, who was enrolled in Marvel's screenwriting program in 2009, was offered several of their lesser-known properties to base a screenplay on. Of those, Perlman chose Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning's Guardians of the Galaxy due to her interest in space and science fiction, adding, quote, "I think Marvel were taken a little aback when I chose Guardians, because there were ones that would make a lot more sense if you were a romantic comedy writer or something like that." Perlman spent 2 years writing a draft, immersing herself in the Guardians universe, and was asked in late 2011 to create another draft, before Gunn was brought in early 2012 to contribute to the script. Gunn eventually rewrote the screenplay because it didn't work for him. He would use the film The Dirty Dozen as a reference to convey his ideas of the film to Marvel. Gunn later explained that Perlman's draft was very different from the script he used during filming, including a different story, character arcs, and a Walkman. He stated, quote, "In a Cole's script, everything is pretty different, but it's not about the same stuff. That's how the WGA works. They like first writers an awful lot." In August 2012, Marvel Studios hired writer Chris McCoy to rewrite Perlman's script. However, it is unclear what contribution he had to the final script, since he did not receive production credit. Gunn revealed later that character introductions were the hardest to crack, with Thanos' introduction being the most difficult. He felt that having Thanos be in that scene was more helpful to the MCU than it was to Guardians of the Galaxy, and he still wanted Thanos in the film without belittling the actual antagonist of the film, which is Ronan. To solve his dilemma, Gunn chose to have Ronan kill the other Thanos' vizier, saying, quote, "I thought that was interesting, because you've had the other, who's obviously very powerful even in comparison to Loki, and then see Ronan wipe his ass with him. So that I liked, but even that was sort of difficult, because it was funnier when I first wrote it, and the humor didn't work so much." And now on to the pre-production. In September 2012, Gunn confirmed that he had signed on to direct the film and rewrite the script. By the end of November, Joel Edgerton, Jack Huston, Jim Sturgis, and Eddie Redmayne signed deals to test for the role of Peter Quill, as did Lee Pace, which he confirmed a week later in early December. Other actors who were considered for the role included Thor the Dark World's Zachary Levi, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Michael Rosenbaum, and John Gallagher Jr. Chris Pratt was cast in the role in February 2013 as part of a multi-film deal that he signed with Marvel. Clint Howerton was Gunn's second choice for the role. In January 2013, filming was scheduled to take place at Shepperton Studios in London, United Kingdom, and Marvel Studios announced that the film would be released in 3D. Victoria Alonso, an executive producer on the film, said the filming would begin in June. She also said that both Rocket Raccoon and Groot would be created through a combination of CGI and motion capture, going to say that, quote, "You can't do any motion capture with a raccoon. They won't let you put the suit on. But we will do rotomation, probably, for some of the behavior. We definitely will have performers emulate what James Gunn will lead to be, the behavior and the performance. It's very clear on where he wants to take the characters. In March 2013, Feige discussed Guardians of the Galaxy in relation to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, saying, quote, "It's so much more of a standalone film. It takes place in the same universe. We've been on the other side of that universe in other movies. So you might see those characters in Guardians, but the Avengers are not involved with what's happening out there at this time." Feige also stated that 95% of the film would take place in space. In March, Dave Bautista was signed to play Drax the Destroyer. Other actors who have been considered for the role included Isaiah Mustafa, Brian Patrick Wade, and Jason Momoa. By the following week, sculptor Brian Muir, who sculpted Darth Vader's mask for the Star Wars films, was revealed to be working on the film. In April 2013, Zoe Saldana entered negotiations to star as Gamora in the film, and was confirmed she had been cast later that month. Amanda Seyfried had also been offered the role, but declined due to the excessive hours of makeup required for that role, and her uncertainty over the film's commercial viability. Also in April, Michael Rooker joined the film's cast as Yondu Udonta. It was announced that Ophelia Lovibond had been cast in a supporting role. By this point in time, Lee Pace was in final negotiations to play the villain of the film. In May, Marvel offered John C. Reilly the role of Roman Day. At the same time, it was disclosed that the filmmakers were looking at actors including Hugh Laurie, Alan Rickman, and Ken Watanabe for another role, and that Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely were providing finishing touches to the script. A few days later, Glenn Close was cast as the head of the Nova Corps in the film, followed shortly after by the casting of Karen Gillan as the film's lead female villain. By June 2013, Benicio del Toro was cast in the film, as part of a multi-film deal with Marvel Studios. Later in the month, it was confirmed that Reilly had been cast as Roman Day. Special effects makeup designer David White took head and body casts of actors, such as Bautista, to experiment with the materials used to create the characters. White said, quote, "James always pushed for practical and makeup effects. He wanted, like me, to see the real deal there on set." White was careful not to use modern creature designs to ensure they did not fall short in Gunn's uniquely envisioned world. White and his team created upwards of 1,000 prosthetic makeup applications and 2,000 molds of different colored aliens. For the special aesthetic look to the film, Gunn wanted to create a colorful science fiction world, included elements of 1950s and 60s pulp movies, citing the Ravager's spaceships, which he compared to muscle cars, as an example of the latter. Science fiction artist Chris Foss inspired and helped design the final look of some of the spacecrafts that appear in the film. The Mass Effect video games, Flash Gordon, Farscape, and Star Wars were primary inspirations for Gunn on the film. And now on to the filming. Principal photography began around July 6, 2013 in London, United Kingdom, under the working title of Full Tilt. Filming took place at Shepperton Studios and Longcross Studios. Later in July, Gunn and the film's cast flew from London to attend San Diego Comic-Con International, where it was revealed that Pace would play Ronan the Accuser, Gillen would be Nebula, Del Toro as the Collector, and that Jumon Hansu had been cast as Korath. Closest later revealed to play Nova Prime Arani Rael. Also at San Diego Comic-Con, Feige stated that Thanos would be a part of the film as the Mastermind. On August 11, 2013, filming began at London's Millennium Bridge, which was selected as a double for Xandar. In August 2013, Marvel announced that Bradley Cooper will voice Rocket. On September 3, 2013, Gunn said that filming was a little over halfway complete. Also in September, Vin Diesel stated that he was voicing Groot. However, Marvel did not confirm Diesel's involvement at the time. On October 12, 2013, Gunn announced on social media that filming had completed. Director of Photography Ben Davis used Arri Alexa XT cameras for the film, saying, quote, "I'm traditionally a photochemical fan, but going with the digital format was the right way for this movie. The Alexa provided the right look for this particular film." During the opening scenes in the 1980s, Davis chose JDC Cooke Extal Crystal Express anamorphic prime lenses because they had more anamorphic artifacts and aberrations, which he felt added something. Davis used spherical Panavision primos for the rest of the film. Additionally, Davis worked closely with production designer Charles Wood in order to achieve the correct lighting looks for each scene. Dealing with two fully CGI characters forced Davis to shoot scenes multiple times, usually once with a reference for the characters and once without them in the shot. Gunn revealed that his brother, Sean Gunn, took on multiple roles during the filming process, such as standing in for Rocket, which he noted was beneficial for the other actors, including Saldana, Pratt, and Bautista, who responded positively to Sean in his on-set performances. Special effects makeup designer David White made 2 life-size versions of Rocket and a bust of Groot as aids for visual effects. White saying, quote, "It gives the filmmakers a good indication of where visual effects needs to pick up and whether Rocket can actually reach certain things or use certain devices." These spots were also used to see how the on-set lighting would affect the characters, to assist with the visual effects lighting process. In January 2015, Disney revealed that the film came in slightly over the agreed budget at $232.3 million, with Disney receiving a rebate of $36.4 million from the British government. It is briefly estimated to have had a $170 million budget. And now, on to the post-production. In November 2013, Gunn stated that he attempted to use as many practical effects as possible while filming to aid the use of CGI motion capture during post-production, saying, quote, "Our sets are enormous. We have a prison that has 350,000 pounds of steel. Anybody who knows me knows I love the mix of practical CGI effects. I can't wait for people to see it, because it's astonishingly beautiful." After release of Thor the Dark World, Feige stated that the Infinity Stones would be focused in the film, as those going forward into the Phase 3 slates of films within the MCU. In a separate interview for The Dark World in November, Feige stated that a third unknown Infinity Stone would be seen in the film, referred to as the Power Stone by the Collector. The mid-credits scene in Thor the Dark World revealed Lovibond's role as the Collector's slave, later named Karina. In December 2013, Marvel confirmed that Diesel will voice Groot. A few weeks of additional filming, involving the film's main cast and crew, occurred in March 2014 at Walt Disney Studios in Burbank, California. In April 2014, Gunn described Thanos as the head of the snake in the film and confirmed he would appear via performance capture. In May 2014, Gunn stated that the film features an enormous amount of smaller minor characters from the Marvel Universe, adding that he felt the film had the most characters overall of any Marvel Studios film to date. Casting supervisor Dan Grace added to this by saying, quote, "We really get the feeling of the scale and scope of the galaxy. We visit 5 planets. We see 100 different races." The film introduces the alien race Sakaran, hunters Ronan's mercenaries, as a replacement to the Badoon, as the Badoon film rights belong to 20th Century Fox. By the end of May, Josh Brolin was revealed as the voice of Thanos, with Feige confirming in July that Brolin also provided the performance capture for the character. Thanos communicates via hologram for much of the film, though he does appear in a scene with Ronan and Nebula. In June 2014, Feige added that Thanos and his followers are the biggest piece of connective tissue that will eventually lead us back into Avengers films in the future. On casting Brolin, Feige said, quote, "We reached out to him and it was one of those things that does not happen all the time, but when it does, it's very nice," where he was totally intrigued. He was a fan of what we did. He met with Jeremy Latcham in a hotel in London and learned about the characters a little bit. I spoke to him on the phone a few times. We ran it by James, who loved it. Ran it by Joss Whedon, who loved it because Thanos is in this universe because of Avengers. Then we shot him and recorded for it. On July 7, 2014, Gunn announced on social media that he had completed work on the film. In August, regarding the post-credits scene, Gunn revealed that the scene did not involve Howard the Duck when it was originally filmed. Rather, he was added during post-production. A decision made by some combination of Gunn and the editor Fred Raskin. As the decision to add the character was made late in the post-production process, he had to be designed that day, before being handed off to Sony Pictures and Imageworks to animate. Also in August, regarding the pre-credits scene of Baby Groot dancing, Gunn stated that he himself danced to provide motion reference for the animators, and that the decision was made to place the scene before the credits rather than during or after them because of positive responses from a test audience, which made Marvel and Gunn feel that they did not want people walking out and missing the thing. Marvel used design firm Swarovski once again for the film's title sequence, after liking their work for Captain America the Winter Soldier. Swarovski developed a custom typeface based on the font used in the teaser posters for the opening credits, which was tinted orange to offer a better contrast to the film's blue and gray imagery. One of the typography solutions offered before the final project wound up being repurposed as a locator card seen throughout the film. And now onto the visual effects. The film features 2,750 visual effects shots, which make up approximately 90% of the film. The film's visual effects were created by a moving picture company who worked on creating Groot, as well as Morag, Xandar, the Dark Aster, and the final battle on Xandar. Framestone, who worked on creating Rocket, extending the Kiln prison set and constructing Nowhere. Luma Pictures, who worked on Thanos. Method Studios, who worked on creating the orb opening and revealing its powers, as well as holographic displays at the Nova Corps Command Center. Loma VFX, Cantina Creative, Sony Pictures Imageworks, who worked on Howard the Duck and creating the Dark Aster shots with MPC. Cosa VFX, Secret Lab, Rice Visual Effects Studios, and Technicolor VFX. Pre- and post visualizations were done by Proof in the Third Floor, with Proof also contributing to the creation of Rocket and Groot. Producer Nick Korda noted how helpful it was to have Sean Gunn and Christian Godlewski portray Rocket and Groot on set, as it provided references for lighting and on-set performances to the animators. When creating Groot, MPC realized early on that his eyes would be essential in maintaining the character's human qualities, as his face couldn't move in the way that humans do. MPC visual effects supervisor Nicholas Ithati explained that, quote, "When you look at humans, what makes eyes interesting is the imperfections. Trying to make these two irises not aimed at the same place, trying to make them strange and look more human." Texture for Groot came from a number of sources, including inspiration from a botanical garden in London, and the character is modeled as individual branches, rigged individually, to simulate a muscle system for the character. One of the major challenges for Framestore in creating Rocket was his fur. Framestore's Rachel Williams explained that since raccoon fur is made up from a layer of short, fine hair and a layer of longer, thicker hairs, these layers were separated and animated individually, removing the need to use guide hairs to control the movements of thick sections of fur. Framestore and MPC worked closely sharing assets to ensure shots of Rocket MPC would match the Rocket created by Framestore, and vice versa for when Groot was needed by the other studio. In order to give Thanos the performance and the way he deserved, Luma Pictures created a new facial animation system to recreate Josh Brolin as a fully CG character, using his eyes, some of his cheek, how his muscles move when he talks. The character's large jaw and the deep grooves that run down his face had to be carefully planned out with the movement of his face. And now, finally, onto the music. In August 2013, Gunn revealed that Tyler Bates would be composing the film's score. Gunn stated that Bates would write some of the score first so that he can film to the music, as opposed to scoring to the film. In February 2014, Gunn revealed that the film incorporates songs from the 1960s and 1970s, such as Hooked on a Feeling on a mixtape in Quill's Walkman, which acts as a way for him to stay connected to the earth, home, and family he lost. In May 2014, Gunn added that using the songs from the 60s and 70s were cultural reference points, saying, quote, "Striking the balance throughout the whole movie. There's something that is very unique, but also something that is easily accessible to people at the same time. The music and the earth stuff is one of those touchstones that we have to remind us that, yeah, Quill is a real person from planet Earth who's just like you and me, except that he's in this big outer space adventure." When choosing the songs, Gunn revealed he started the process by reading the Billboard charts for all of the top hits of the 70s, downloading a few hundred songs that were semi-familiar, ones you recognize but might not be able to name off the top of your head, and creating playlists for all the songs that fit the film tonally. and that he will listen to the playlist on my speakers around the house. Sometimes I would be inspired to create a scene around a song. Other times I had a scene that needed music and I would listen through the playlist, visualizing various songs, figuring out which would work the best. Most of the songs were played on set to help the actors and camera operators find the perfect groove for the shot. Excuse me. With David Bowie's Moon Age Daydream, the only song chosen and added during post-production. Gunn also said that the opening scenes were designed with Hooked on a Feeling in mind. However, once Gunn discovered Come and Get Your Love, song used in the sequence, Gunn felt it was a better fit. Three albums were released by Hollywood Records on July 29, 2014. The film score, Guardians of the Galaxy (original score), which features the music composed by Bates for the film. Guardians of the Galaxy Awesome Mix Volume 1, original motion picture soundtrack, which comprises 12 songs from Quill's mixtape, and a deluxe edition featuring both albums. By August 2014, the album which mirrored Quill's mixtape had reached the top of the Billboard 200 chart, becoming the first soundtrack album in history consisting entirely of previously released songs to top the chart. Hollywood Records also released a cassette version of the Awesome Mix Volume 1 soundtrack on November 28, 2014, as an exclusive to Record Store Day participants. That cassette, which is the first cassette Disney Music Group has released since 2003, comes with a digital download version of the album. Nice. So overall, this is just a pretty damn awesome movie, if you ask me. And again, it's one of my favorite films, and it's another one of my favorite films in Phase 2 of the MCU. So overall, I give Guardians of the Galaxy 5 arc reactors out of 5. Anyway, to tomorrow as we check out the penultimate film of Phase 2 of the MCU, Avengers Age of Ultron. So, until then, in the words of the late great Stan Lee, Excelsior!